Today it's an episode all about Diego screwing up. These are the 5 biggest mistakes I made in the garden over the summer months. Stay tuned to find out what they are and how I'm going to try and correct those mistakes going forward. Overall, I try and be as positive as possible on this channel, yet I try and be as honest as possible on this channel. And if you're truly being honest with others and yourself, you have to look at your flaws and your mistakes. Sometimes you just screw up. Sometimes you don't do things well. And sometimes you got to fess up to those things. Well, today I want to talk about mistakes that I made. And this is a process that I go through, not just in gardening, but all of life. I get to the end of a season or some sort of term of something, end of a project, and I look back and say, what went well, what didn't go well. We can celebrate the things that went well briefly, and we can look at the things that didn't go well and analyze those and say, why didn't we do well with those? And how can we correct those going forward? Were they one-off anomalies, or are they systemic failures that we can truly try and fix? And I think more gardeners should do this, because while gardening is a hobby for a lot of people, I think like golf or swimming or fishing, gardening, you want to get better at it over time. Nobody wants to flip-flop and struggle when they're doing this. So part of the growing process, the getting better process, is looking at past performance, analyzing it with an honest perspective, and then saying, hey, I'm going to try and correct these mistakes going forward. We'll do it again. So here are the 5 mistakes that I made this year. Mistake number 1, sun was too hot. After all my years of growing, I still have not figured out summer gardening. Putting transplants in at the wrong time, putting transplants in into the bare sun only to see them fry very quickly, having transplants fry in the nursery. Water's another big issue tied to this. It's one thing to have the sun be hot. It's another thing to have the sun be hot and not have plants get enough water. So I really need to figure out my watering situation in the field and in the nursery, get it locked down and get it into something that works. Solutions to the sun too hot problem. I really need to figure out my irrigation system. Over the past few years, I've been heavily reliant on drip irrigation. I think it works pretty well once the crops are established, but out here trying to establish a crop with drip is really problematic. I really need some sort of hybrid system that is drip and overhead. The problem I have in my system is I'm not working on rectangular bed blocks. So all of my garden is kind of fit into triangular and angular shaped pieces, which makes it really hard to water overhead, because overhead works really well in circles and rectangles, but it doesn't work as easy in triangles, especially if you have tomatoes mixed in with, say, a lettuce crop, and you just want to overhead water one bed. How do you do that? I know it can be done. I need to figure that out. So I need to fix this irrigation system to help solve the sun problem. I'm also going to be trying to integrate more shade cloth usage into the garden, whether that's actually shading out huge portions of the garden over the summer to make it more palatable for me as a gardener to work under and for the plants themselves. I think that can go a long ways. A lot of market gardeners do that and they have a lot of success. Something probably like a 40, 50, 60% shade cloth is in the zone where I will be looking. Water and shade are 2 ways I'm trying to beat the sun being too hot. Where Diego screwed up, number 2, I need to figure out succession planning, succession cropping. I have a huge problem of planting too much all at once, having it come all ripe at the same time, and then I'm standing there scratching my head trying to figure out, what am I going to do with all this produce that I'm harvesting? So this succession thing is really something I have to figure out, because I'm sick of having too much produce all at once. And then once that's harvested, I have nothing. I really need to try and figure out that. But this ties directly into where Diego screwed up, number 3, doing too much. I'm a dad, I run a business, I do these YouTube videos, I do multiple podcasts. In life, I am generally busy. So when it comes to gardening, I need to try and create a garden plan that meshes with my busy life. If I try and create a very ambitious, busy gardening plan and lay it over an already ambitious, busy life, something's going to break. I don't want my marriage or my relationship with my kids or my business to break. So what's going to end up breaking and what has ended up breaking in the past has been the gardening. So I need to work on doing less in the garden, focusing on more appropriate crops to grow, things that might not need as much attention day to day or even week to week. I need to focus on growing less total crops, more maybe crops that I want to grow for food security or that my family really loves, or foods that I love to grow. And I just need to scale back on the amount of land that I'm actually planted, which works out well for this channel because one thing I'm really trying to focus on is building soil. So maybe that means more beds dedicated to cover crops that require less overall maintenance. But that's one area where I screwed up trying to do too much. Where Diego screwed up, number 4, a little land goes a long way. I've always been super ambitious with everything in life. I try and do too much. I try and take on too much. So if I have 1 acre to plan out, I'm going to try and plan out 1 acre. When in reality, to mesh with life and to fit in with life, I really need to be planning out 1/10 of an acre. I think you can solve a lot by smart design. It isn't always planting more to get more. I think you can be very efficient with less space if you create a well thought out plan versus just planting out a whole bunch of things. So I think succession planting, I think growing crops that our family likes to eat, buying the rest, growing more durable crops, forgetting the more fragile crops is a way of handling this. And I'm also trying to move towards a system of this PGC or perennial ground cover system, but I am trying to move towards a system that requires less maintenance overall so the land that I have can stay, keep building soil on it, but not necessarily have to manage it intensively on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Where Diego screwed up, number 5. Have a plan. This is probably the root of all of the problems that I have. I don't go into the season with a garden plan. Now, I know a lot of farmers go into the season with a whole crop plan, and some gardeners might, and some homesteaders might. I mean, do you as a gardener, do you plan out your garden successions? Or are you just kind of, like me, winging it? I've always winged it. And I've winged it long enough to realize I'm sick of winging it. It's creating stress in my life. It's creating problems. It's actually taking some of the fun out of gardening. I need to be more strategic about what I'm planting, when, and where I'm putting it. So I'm trying to plant less frequently on less land. The only way I'm going to really be able to do that, knowing myself, is if I have a hard plan that is written down on a calendar, and that keeps me accountable, and it also keeps me moving along. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting behind in the garden, so I rush to plant a whole bunch of seedlings, and then I have nowhere to put them all. I overplant, so I wasted a whole bunch of time, soil, and seed. So having a plan, I think, will solve a lot of these problems. It is a hobby, and a lot of hobbies you really don't plan out. But then again, hey, if you're doing fitness or running or some sort of training, you definitely have a workout plan. So why not have a garden plan? Those are some of the big areas that I screwed up in the garden over the summer. What about you? Did everything go perfect? Probably not. What are some of the big areas that you screwed up in your garden? Let me know by leaving a comment below. I'd love to just cry in empathy with you and see some of the mistakes that you made, so I know I'm not alone. Nobody's perfect, and you can only identify these mistakes by doing that post-mortem when you look back at the gardening season. So look back through the past few months, what went well, what didn't go well, and how can you fix what didn't go well so hopefully you don't repeat some of the patterns I've made and have it happen year after year after year, and you can correct these and eliminate them once and for all. Thanks for watching the video today. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.